California anti-ICE protest group funded by Biden DHS grant. Of course they were. Of course they were funded by Biden. We all know these Biden funded these leftist so-called NGOs that help fund these color revolutions. Karen Bass, the mayor of LA, has an entire history. Her entire history was dedicated to working with these color revolution NGOs and stuff like that. So of course the first riots, the first anti-ICE protests and riots would happen in LA. So we go talk a little bit about that. But before we get started, go ahead and hit that like button, share this out so we can get this information out there. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. Also, check out my link tree in the description. It has a link to my Patreon. That's where I talk about things that I can't talk about here. There's also a link to my Instagram and my X account, so follow me there as well. All right, let's get into this news. Now, this comes from the Post Millennial, and they report that the Department of Homeland Security is funding one of the groups that is staging protests against immigration and custom enforcement, which falls under DHS. Isn't that funny? That DHS is actually funding the people that's going against DHS. But War Room's Natalie Winters shared the shocking information on X, showing that DHS, under the Biden administration, gave a project grant to Coalition of Humane Immigrant Rights, or they call it CHIRLA, in the amount of $450,000. And she's showing her receipts here. CHIRLA has been engaged in and staging protests opposing ICE, because none of this stuff is ever organic. It's never organic. It starts somewhere. Someone fund this. Kind of like during the BLM riots and stuff. Remember when they had the bricks was showing up around the city? Remember all of that? It's funded by someone. It's always funded by someone. But protesters with CHIRLA carry signs saying "Stop deportations, full rights for immigrants." This is ridiculous, right? Even though 80% of Americans are against all of this, but they have other signs that say "ICE out of our communities, education, not deportation, stop the starvation, stop the deportations, and the Trump fascist regime must go now." CHIRLA representatives spoke to the crowd. They said, quote, "Our community is under attack and has been terrorized," said CHIRLA Executive Director Angela Salas. "These are workers, these are fathers, these are mothers of the initial award. $100,000 remains to be dispersed to the group." So again, they don't talk about how these people are in this country illegally committing all these crimes and stuff like that. Of course, they would never talk about that. But on Friday, Salas spoke at a press conference of the CHIRLA-run LA Rapid Response Network. Quote, "Following the series of ICE raids conducted that morning on Facebook, publicized the remarks." CHIRLA wrote, quote, "To our immigrant community, we see you, we hear you, and we will not stop fighting for you. We say no deportations." So no deportations, none, really? So you have criminals here committing crimes, you don't think they need to be deported? We told you this. The mainstream media is pretending like, no, we understand the criminals and stuff like that. No, that's not what these people are saying. These people are saying even the criminals, even the rapists and murderers, no deportations. No to mass detentions. Family belong together. We belong here. No, you don't belong here. No, you absolutely do not belong here. Salas spoke about the group's indignation as to what happened in our city, in our neighborhoods, in our workforce. Our communities is under attack and it's being terrorized, she said. She said, "These are workers, these are fathers, these are mothers, and this has to stop. Immigration enforcement that is terrorizing our families throughout this country and picking up our people that we love must stop now. My call today is to all U.S. citizens, because I want you to know if our rights are violated, if our constitutional rights are violated, if our due process rights are violated, then anybody's right can be violated. Well, you have no rights. You're not a legal person. You're not a legal citizen. So you don't have these constitutional rights that you're talking about. The quote, you think that you are protected because you are not an immigrant. I am here to tell you what is happening in this country, and what we observe today is unprecedented. And we are in the situation where every single person who believes in democracy and believes in the ability of us to live free in this country is under attack, Saylor said. Well, it's not unprecedented. We have done this before. Presidents have scooped up whole populations and put them in internment camps here and stuff like that. So this is not unprecedented. She don't know what she's talking about. But Churla is also funded by Act Blue, of course, the usual suspects. Act Blue. Remember, Act Blue took all these illegal donations from foreign entities and stuff like that. Of course, they will be behind this color revolution that's happening right now. Natalie Winters posted this. Anti-ICE rioters in Los Angeles are being organized by the Coalition of Humane Immigrant Rights of Los Angeles, Churla. Biden's DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas was a polar opposite of Trump's DHS Secretary Kristi Noem. Mayorkas was in favor of pathways to citizenship for those who came to the U.S. Illegally, where Noem is enforcing immigration law. Shortly after taking office, Mayorkas spoke at a press briefing from the White House, telling would-be illegal border crossers, quote, "We're not saying don't come. We're saying don't come now." I remember when he made that idiotic statement. His imperative was to create more semi-legal and legal roads to immigration. He worked to create ways for illegal immigrant spouses of U.S. citizens to skip the normal process for citizenship and get fast-tracked through a special process. So just skip everything, skip over people that's been in this country for years doing it the right way. Forget all of that. This is ridiculous. Just for those with that status. He also spearheaded a program where he used the concept of, quote, humanitarian and public interest parole, which is ridiculous, into a mass migrant tool that overwhelmed America's immigration system. In September 2021, Mayorkas said in ICE guidelines that since the federal government did, quote, not have the resources to apprehend and seek the removal of more than 11 million undocumented and otherwise removable non-citizens of the United States, it made more sense to provide a path to citizenship or other lawful status for these persons. But Trump is doing it. Trump is doing it, and he said it couldn't be done. Mayorkas said it could not be done, and Trump is doing it. He's sipping them back. It was under Mayorkas' tenure at DHS that Churla gained the $450,000 grant. Churla is continuing to stage protests against the enforcement arm of the agency that provided them with this funding. Again, isn't that ironic? The same people that gave them this money is the same people they're throwing rocks at, they're rioting over. They are staging a protest for David Huda, who was arrested on Friday during a riot. You can see this here. Again, Democrat Party is the party of lawlessness. Former Vice President Kamala Harris held an event as a senator-elect in 2016 at Churla headquarters and praised the group, saying that their, quote, mission is one of the main reasons I ran to become a senator. So again, Democrats support this lawlessness, this rioting, and they still continue to call it protests, which makes it so crazy when they're burning stuff down and calling it a protest. It's ridiculous. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this. Leave y'all comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe. And check out jjthepsychotherapist.com for the latest in news. Until next time, peace.